Morning, Kambili.
Morning.
How have you been this week?
Better. I was able to read a whole chapter of my book without seeing red.
That's great news. You've been enjoying that book from what you told me.
Definitely, although I haven't made much progress on my own.
You've had a lot going on. That meeting with your brother was this weekend, right? You were really worried about that last week.
Yeah, it went better than expected.
Did he end up giving you that plant you wanted?
Yeah, he did. I didn't realize how much he relied on Ifeomo's gardening after he got out of prison until last week. I guess that would be obvious to anyone else, considering the amount of purple hibiscuses he had in his yard.
Make sure you get all the broken stems in that bush over there.
I know. I spoke with Mom today.
Did you?
She brought over some food Nia had made. I'm glad she gave Sissy a break to have her baby, but I feel so bad for this new maid. I had made her breakfast and I told her about the book I'm working on. She says she misses you. You'll have to have her over to help with the garden sometime.
I don't want her back here. Can't let her mess up someone else's growing process.
You're gonna have to let her in eventually, you know. Jaja.
I know.
He's been closed off ever since he got out. Maybe he's still mad that Mama couldn't bail him out years ago. I know he still cares. Why else would he take the blame for everything?
I know you don't expect him to change overnight. I'm glad you're trying to ease him into it. Sometimes the whole intervention thing doesn't go as smoothly as it does in the movies.
Well, we tried it once, back when we went to visit Auntie in America.
That's so funny.
Yeah, this is the shit.
We'll meet you back at the house at noon. Okay, Auntie. That's so good.
I didn't mean to get involved. Mama wanted me to distract him while they set up the house. It was one of the best days we spent together since he got out. I just wanted to spend that time with him before everything got bad again. He wouldn't talk to me for a while after that. You'd think after all we endured together growing up, he'd never shut me out. But I guess that trip to Auntie's really did a number on how much he relied on me. It took me months to gain his trust again.
What about you? You said staying at your aunt's was one of the few things you remember best about your childhood, right?
Staying at Auntie's made me realize how bad of an environment I was living in. That period of time when Mama brought us from her house to Papa's death was one of the hardest times of my life. I was so thankful when Auntie invited us to her house in America, but every time we'd fly home, I'd go back to sitting in my room and avoiding everyone else. I started seeing red spots more frequently after she moved to America.
Did you ever talk to your aunt about this? What about your cousin?
Ever since Amaka and I found each other's phone numbers, we've talked as often as we can. She's always busy with her designing, so I have to capture her at a good time. But it's been nice to reconnect with her, even when Auntie only pops on the line to say hello and update me on her classes. I hope I can drag Jaja back over there soon.
Even though you've stopped seeing red as often, it wouldn't hurt to get a perspective on where you're feeling with your childhood trauma. Can I ask you a few probing questions?
Yeah, why not?
Let's start with your father. What's the strongest memory you can think of about him?
That's an easy one. The first thing I think of when someone mentions Papa is the night I spent at Auntie's house after he'd beaten me. I just remember lying there in Amaka's room, my thoughts just empty. It had taken me days to start thinking about it again, and when it did, everything just happened at once. I started thinking about all those times Papa had hurt me, all those times I'd brushed it off and told myself I deserved it. I remember the sting of the belt, the needles of pain as the hot water hit my feet, the smell of the painting of Papa Nkuwu, everything. And for the first time in what felt like years, I cried. I took one look at myself in the mirror and saw my mother and my facial features. All I could think of was the stiffness of my limbs from the beating and her blood on the stairs. So I guess, to answer your question, when I think of Papa, I think of the punishments he put me through. Mama's blood on the stairs, all of that. But most of all, I think of when Mama had confessed that she had poisoned him. I think of the love sips that burnt my tongue, a burn I had held onto for so many years, despite the fact that I could no longer taste. I think of how stupid I was to be upset with her for killing someone who had tormented us for years. I think of his hand on the small of my back, the hands reaching out for him as we walked through the church aisles, and his hand curled around the belt buckle.
Are you still angry with your mother after everything she put you through?
I think I used to be. I held on to my resentment for a while when Jaja was in jail, when she hired a new maid so that Sissy could have a break, when we'd sit down for dinner and discuss nothing. I still don't pretend to excuse her every action. That's what the therapists before you have made sure I remembered.
It's definitely important to acknowledge that your mother made many mistakes, and you have no obligation to forgive her for every decision that she's made. No one in your family, your mother, Jaja, and especially you, was unaffected by your father. No one in your family made it out of that house unscathed.
I know. Sometimes I miss who I thought I was before I processed everything I've been through. I used to be happy, or at least that's what I thought. I thought the way I grew up was normal, but there were no harder realizations than coming to terms with the fact that I grew up with an abusive father and that the childhood that I had was unhealthy.
It's good that you're able to acknowledge they didn't live a normal life. That's the first step to getting better.
Acknowledging that I grew up that way didn't take away any of the pain I endured. Realizing that Papa abused everyone in my home didn't take away the burns on my feet. But I remember how I felt when I first began to question him. I remember how little acknowledgement did for me then. Acknowledgement only made me feel more hopeless. It was a reminder that I was in a miserable situation that I had no power to get out of. I only spent years falling for Father Amadi because he was the first person in my life to treat me with unconditional kindness and consideration that I had wanted for so long. Now I can tell myself that I regained power when I realized I needed help. Now I know that I can read a book without seeing red. I can fall in love without feeling like I need someone. I can sit here and talk about my childhood without those stupid bubbles in my throat. And even though I'm not perfect, I'm better than who I was before. And every time I see that purple hibiscus plant in my kitchen, I'll remember what I've gone through to become who I am now.
Oh!
My God!
Cinematography is so difficult. Audio does not matter, so whatever.
Well, it started filming immediately. It's so close. It's so close up. Oh!
Are we good?
Oh, bro, zooming down.
I thought that was a.
Oh my goodness.
Dude! There's an auntie in America. And then... Let me go. Nope.
You've been enjoying that book? No.
I think of the loves.
No!
Kill me! I thought of the love sips didn't take away.
James, where's the
The
pander?
pan!
I don't want it back here. Can't let him out.
Okay.
That's good.
That's awesome.